What's up, everybody? It is Moose, Brian, and Jack here from Occupy Fantasy and DFS Magic. Here to break down tonight's NHL slate. Talk about Jack's awesome win, second time this month. So let's jump right into it. If you know who you are, if you know who we are, congratulations. If you don't, again, I'm at the left of your screen. I'm Moose at CFB_Moose on Twitter. Brian, CEO of Occupy, at the top right of your screen at Brian Jester FF on Twitter. How are you tonight, man?
If you know who you are, some real self-awareness. I like that intro moves. I'm good, man. I'm good. It's I haven't played too much DFS over the last couple of days with the tournament happening. Did play UFC on Saturday, but this is my first night back in the NHL for a couple of days, so excited to get back onto the grind.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And then at the bottom right of your screen, we have Jack from DFS Magic, who powers our lineup builder here at Occupy Fantasy at DFS_Magic_. Jack, how are you tonight?
Doing great, Moose. Good to see you, Brian. Fun doing this. I think this is maybe our fifth time doing this or so. So it's been great, and looking forward to getting into it.
Absolutely, yeah. And Jack, you pockets are getting a little heavier, with NHL. I heard you had a recent win on Saturday, so if you want to just take a couple minutes and talk about that.
Yeah, it's 5K, smaller. We'd love to show these 50K, 100K wins, but the reality is hockey just doesn't have a ton of those contests. But it is the largest 150 max GPP that FanDuel offers. When I won it a month ago, it was 10K. And a little bit of a dry spell, I think, for me and for a lot of people. But it was good to get back in the black with that. And it was not too much different than what we've been talking about for 4 weeks straight. It was a 4-4 lineup. We'll get into some of the details, but kind of used a lot of the same settings and strategy that we've been talking about, and it was great to see it work out again.
Yeah, I can't imagine, even if it's just 5K, that's still good to hit. I know you talk about, there was kind of a recent slump from all of us here, but glad that you were able to take that home. We have right up here at the even strength dashboard. And Jack, I believe one of the things you do, Brian, you talk about it a lot, is eliminating popular pairs. So is that something that you did on Saturday?
It is. And Brian joked, but I think he was half serious, and I'm half seriously considering it. He said, "I'll take my Venmo fee." But that is not something I would have done if Brian hadn't pointed it out. And I did. If you watched one of the streams a few weeks ago, I think it was right after Brian, when you won the big DK one, you showed people exactly what you did, and I did the exact same thing. I looked at the even strength dashboard. I just kind of drew a line and said, all right, above this line of ownership, these are chalk. Just a reminder for everyone: the reason we would limit those pairs is it's not because they might not do well. It's just that if they do well, even if you hit them, they're going to be so popular that you're going to be up against all sorts of weird combos and one-offs and every goalie, and you're going to have to get it perfect. And that's why we don't want to play those. And the morning after I won, I was playing around with my settings, and I took that rule out, and I did not get that optimal lineup in my build. And then I put it back in, and I got it 3 times in a row. So it made all the difference. So gotta top Brian there. And for anyone listening, I think that's a really worthy rule to put in if you're even if you're building one lineup. It's something to think about, and if you're doing the multi-build, it's definitely a rule that's worth your time putting in.
Yeah, I will say, though, just really quickly, just that, it's a collaborative effort, right? And that's why we do these streams. That's why we have the Discord. That's why we have the plug. It's when we uncover something, we let you guys know. We're not keeping any secrets. So, while that may have been my idea, Jack has come up with a variety of ideas. They've been implemented in the builder. A lot of our Discord community has come up with ideas. And it's been, like I said, a real collaborative effort and a combination of strategies and solutions to get to the optimal building process. And again, what we've been talking about on stream are just the presentation of all those ideas that we've been figuring out.
You hit it right on the spot there, Brian. And speaking of the Discord, I do want to just mention we do have the join button below our video. So if you really like what you see here, not only can you hit the like, subscribe, and bell notifications to be notified of new videos, you can also hit that join button. It's a monthly subscription to join our Discord access, where we're always chopping it up. I mean, we got the top 10 NHL player. Brian's always in there. Jack's always in there. I'm in there occasionally, just saying hello. But yeah, it's an absolute invaluable resource. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, definitely go ahead and hit the join button. Just looking here at the chat, we got C Nasty, Brian, Carl. What's up, everybody? And Carl says, Brian, how are you so good?
I put a shit ton of hours into it. I think about it from a high level, and it's really not a secret, honestly. Right, Moose? I think all of my strategies I talk about, whether it's UFC or NFL or hockey or whatever hell it is, like I'm talking about it on streams. It's just, you have to have the discipline to implement it.
Yes, you're definitely right on that. All right, so I don't know about you all, but should we just jump over to the builder, see kind of what it gives us, and just chat it up?
Yeah, I don't know, Jack. Real quick before we jump over there, maybe we talk about just what the popular stacks are tonight.
Yeah, Moose, I don't know if you're able to show the even strength dashboard first. Maybe we can look at it that way.
Yeah, so that's what I have up now, the even strength dashboard, and it's right now sorted by OF index. But if we sort by DraftKings ownership, we get some Rangers, Calgary, Winnipeg, line 1 and 2, Colorado, Calgary 2, Carolina. All of those are over 20% on DraftKings, and looks like on FanDuel as well.
Yeah, and what we like to do here when you sort by ownership is you just kind of look down at the rankings, and then you can start to see, you'll see ones that aren't ranked super high that are really popular, and then you'll also see ones that are ranked pretty highly but are way down on the popularity list. And, I think, Brian, those are the ones that you might be targeting for single entries. If you're building a lot of lineups, they're ones you probably would expect to get a healthy amount of.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jake has a question in the chat about where do we draw that line for ownership? And it's really a subjective process. 10 teams on the slate. We don't have to eliminate that many combinations just because there are so many to choose from. And just on first glance, we see New York 1, Calgary 1, both above 30%. And honestly, that's probably fine. Maybe you could drop down to the Winnipeg lines and Colorado 1 and cut those out. Maybe Calgary 2 as well. You really don't have to get too different on a 10-game slate. There's not much you have to do. So I think just maybe the first two, honestly, are probably fine. The first 5 or 6 are probably fully complete. But Jack, it's really on those smaller slates where you're eliminating a little bit more combinations, and we see a lot more teams above that 25% mark.
Yeah, I agree. It's smaller slates, and also if you look at FanDuel, because we know, or maybe you don't know, but the pricing is softer on FanDuel. It's a lot easier to jam expensive players. So if you sort by FanDuel, you'll actually, even tonight, you'll see, we got Calgary, Colorado, New York, both Winnipegs, Carolina. Those are all in that 24 and higher % mark. Whereas in DraftKings, because the pricing is harder, that's why you see them more flattened out. So, I think smaller slates, and then also, if you're playing on FanDuel, I think it's maybe a little bit more important.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's hop over to the builder. I'm going to go ahead over to the lineup builder, and we'll go to NHL. And what do you want to get? What do you want to build today, guys? DraftKings or FanDuel? Jack, I know you're trying to get that DraftKings ticket. Should we start there?
Let's do FanDuel. We always do DraftKings. Yeah, we'll throw FanDuel in for once.
Perfect. All right, cool. And so while it's loading, I know I kind of mentioned it, but Brian, I know you said you got some recent wins. You have 2 entries in the live, not live hockey final.
I just have one, unfortunately. I'm trying to get number 2 tonight, but I do have the one Fantasy Hockey World Championship ticket. I got some tickets for tonight's $250 qualifier, so we'll see. But yeah, I think I've been using a similar approach, trying to pick my qualifier lineups, my single entry 3 max lineups, my satellite lineups. It's really just this process we've been doing the past 4 or 5 weeks here on stream is eliminating popular pairs, putting in the optimal settings in the builder, and running it on low and high just to kind of see what's available, and then either picking some of the highest projected lineups or some of the first built lineups, or some of those popular pair lineups, some kind of mix in that regard. And like Jack said earlier, I think a lot of those teams that were unpopular by ownership, but the model really likes a lot tonight, I'm sure we'll see some of those in our popular pairings here once we build.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and expand the builder, make it take the whole screen. That means our faces will go away. So we will see you all in a little bit once we're done building. And so sweet transition, go now. There we go. Works perfect.
Pay the big bucks, Moose.
Flawless. Cool. So I have FanDuel up here, and like you said, the first thing we like to do is limit those popular pairs, and so we can do that by going to the stacks dashboard in DFS Magic, and we can go to this exclude stacks from the same lineup. And so Brian, which ones did we say we want to exclude on FanDuel?
Yeah, so we're on FanDuel right now, and if you're following along at home and you have the even strength stack dashboard up on your computer or your phone, then we have Calgary line 1 is above 20. We're using like a 22-23% mark here. So Calgary line 1, Colorado line 1, the Rangers line 1, Winnipeg, both lines 1 and 2 should be popular tonight. And then you could probably do Carolina line 1, and that should be pretty safe for us.
Awesome. So we'll go back to basic. We'll change to 150. And Jack, I'll loop you in on this. I know we have a different approach. I should probably listen to you since you've won multiple tournaments with it. But what do you set your minimum salary to? I know you can get a little wild on that.
Yeah, I mean, I just usually go for like a 10K range, sometimes 15. And, you're not going to get, you're probably on a large slate, especially, you're not going to get a 42K lineup. However, we have seen one of those almost win. But really what I want the builder to do is to just purely look at the highest projected stacks and not care about salary. And the reason being, sometimes there's stacks that are just mispriced. An easy example is St. Louis has had some better players come back from injury, and they've been actually, for once, DraftKings was the softer pricing. But they had like a couple min-priced guys. And if you set a really tight salary range, you might not end up with that stack because it just can't construct the lineup in the way that you want. So that's the reason why you would do that. I definitely do sort by salary and just look and make sure I don't have any, garbage lineups. But I at least want to give it an opportunity to build independent of salary and see what it does.
Cool. So we'll start off with the 10K. So we'll put it at 45K at the min salary. And Clary, thank you for the $19.99 donation or super chat, whatever it's called now on YouTube. Appreciate that. He says, which rule? I just chimed in. Sorry. The rule we're talking about is making it so popular stacks aren't in the same lineup. So we went to the stacks dashboard, and then we just added a bunch of the 6 most popular lineups from the even strength dashboard. 6 most popular teams. Perfect. So, Brian, should we just run this on? What should we do? Should we just run it like this with full stacks, no defender? Should we leave it on low or high? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, let's do low first, just to see what the most popular pairings are.
And I'm actually just gonna change.
And did you get the? Did we check our usual stack boxes, and then also maybe spend a second looking at the goalies too, because we always usually do that.
You're right as well. Yeah. So I have 4 center winger, max 1D. And is there anything else I need to check on here?
D same power play, max 1D. I always do max 1 center, and then maybe if like Carolina's on the slate, which they are tonight, maybe we do a separate rule for them. But just for now, just to see what's going on. Okay. And then I always do the no D 2-3 stack. That's more of a DraftKings rule. I don't think it's going to come into play here with FanDuel's 4-4. But basically, I click everything except force goalie when I'm making lineups.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. We should do that for the first build, I think.
And then if we go here to our goalies, and I know, Jack, you like to disregard the popular goalies, and so we just have the top 2 here, top 3, 16, 16, 15. Should we just X these guys out?
Yeah, I think it's super easy tonight. There's 3 guys that are clearly chalk. And again, you said B, but that's what I learned from Brian. It makes sense. I was playing all the goalies, which is also a viable strategy, but we've seen the chalk goalies fail often enough that it's just a no-brainer way to create easy leverage. So yeah, I think getting rid of those 3. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, totally agree. And especially there's a lot of options in that top third of the model that aren't high owned that are just very easy pivots.
Yeah. Definitely. And so I excluded out those top 3 guys, and then I will just go ahead and thumbs up Carolina and Calgary goalie. Those are the 2 highest in terms of ownership there.
And Brian brought up a good point. You might think, well, why are we getting rid of goalies that are almost guaranteed to win? And you still have, even if that goalie crushes, you still have a great chance to win because you're playing all those other goalies. You just, in high risk, you just need one goalie to do well. Yeah. But if those guys don't do well, you just immediately eliminated, half your opponents in the slate.
Exactly. Yep. Perfect. So we go here. It's the wrong tab. So we have all that set up. Let's go ahead and build, and let's see what it gives us. Here. So we got Chris Rooney in the chat here, who's our MLB writer, helps out with the daily plug, helps out with the NFL plug. So glad to see him here. If you all are here, and you like what you see, definitely go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification. We'll be here for about 13 more minutes or so. And if you really like what you see here, you can get that awesome Occupy badge that Clary has in the chat by joining our YouTube membership program. Also gives you access to the Occupy Fantasy Discord, where all 3 of us and more are chatting up every single night. So let's see if this thing is done building yet. Not yet. Let's see here. Jack, I'll just ask this question to you while it's building. What do you think is going to be the most popular line combination that it gives us?
Ooh, so I actually haven't clicked build yet, so I don't know. I cheated. Kaladin told me what it is. It's probably going to be Colorado and like Calgary 3, I think. He showed that to me anyway. I think that'll be up there. But we see in the dashboard, Colorado 1 is top line. They are crazy expensive tonight, so it's going to probably try to play them and then find the value stack.
Yeah.
So that's my guess.
All right, so it actually could only build 128 lineups. So there's something wrong. We definitely did.
Okay.
What's the error message? I'm a few seconds behind here on the stream. What was the error message we're getting?
It says the optimizer is struggling to meet your min custom rules. Exactly custom rules, auto stack.
Oh yes, or stacks. Yeah. Interesting. What do we? Let's see. You said salary wide.
Yeah.
Can you go to team and just see how many of each type it built? It may have. I wonder if it just kind of timed out this time.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Right.
Maybe it's just got a lot of demand right this second. But I mean, we can still get the point across by looking at the ones that it did.
Okay. I was gonna say, or I could just run it again. Whatever you want me to do.
Let's just look at what we got. Yeah.
Are we about to say something, Brian?
I was gonna say let's run it again because we do have a couple questions in the chat that I think we could run through while we wait for it to run one more time. And the first question is from Jake, and he says San Jose and Calgary are popular in the builder. First of all, I'll say no surprise there; they always are. Does it make sense to remove the opposing goalies from your pool? Jack, what do you think on that? I can see if you're really trying to up the variance, really up the leverage, and you have 30% of each of those stacks, maybe just remove the opposing goalie because if they hit, good. If not, then so be it. What are your thoughts on that?
I probably wouldn't. The reason being is that we're playing a lot of goalies, and that means you're only going to use any one goalie at 3 to 4%. So even if you have Calgary and San Jose as very high teams, they're still probably only going to make up, what do you think, half, maybe a little over half of maybe 2/3 worst case of your lineups. So if those goalies do crush and you get rid of them, you're not gonna have a chance to play that guy. But if he does well, you still got however many other lineups that could use that goalie. So I probably would leave him in. What do you think?
Yeah, that's probably fair. Maybe in 20 max, I could see that. 150 max, I would probably leave him, but 20 max, I think it makes more sense.
Awesome. I think that's actually the only question that we had, right?
I had another question, and I was storing it in the back of my mind, and now I can't remember what it was.
Let's see here.
If I remember it, I'll ask again.
Okay. So Builder did a little bit better this time. 137 lineups. So build 11 more. I think we just run with this, right?
Yeah, we'll run it here for now. again, if this is happening, this is a real build, and you're experiencing this, you go back, uncheck some of the settings, see what's tripping it up. This is pretty rare for FanDuel, and maybe we have too many popular stacks together. Excluded. Maybe we take a couple of those out. That's what I would try if you were building this. But like Jack said, we can still get the gist of it.
I have one idea, and I don't know. One thought is Colorado is so expensive. I wonder if it just keeps trying to jam it. And like you said, because we're blocking some of the stacks that would work. That's one idea. Other idea could be sometimes you see some lineups or some stacks where like they have center or 3 wings on the line, and it's trying to use those ones a lot, and it gets tripped up with the force CW there's a couple things you can try there.
Okay.
Right, for sure. So what are the most popular pairings that we have here with these 138 lineups?
Perfect. So we go to team pair exposure tab. The highest exposure is Colorado and the Islanders at 11%. Basically, Colorado just dominates the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 out of the top 8. So, yeah, Colorado apparently is going to be very popular from an Occupy standpoint tonight.
Yeah, so Jack, what do you think about that, right? They're going to be popular, but again, 10-game slate, so they're not going to be that popular. But I guess on FanDuel they might be just because of, like we talked about, the salary. So would you try to limit them in this sense or get more exposure to their line too?
So I think we've played enough of this to see, on FanDuel, I play this DPP every night almost. And what you see is McDavid, Matthews, and McKinnon, 30 to 40% owned, unless they're all 3 on the same slate. But, there's 2 of them. I think we can lock that in. And their wingers are usually only about half that, maybe 15, 20%. So, like you said, McKinnon will be extremely popular. The wingers will be less. And the full stack, especially the full 4-man stack with the D, it won't be nearly as popular as you think. So there's still huge leverage in playing that 4-man stack. A lot of people will just play the 3 offensive guys. A lot of people will one-off McKinnon. A lot of people will, play 3 offensive guys and the goalie. I think there's still opportunity for leverage with Colorado, even though their ownership is high.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking, obviously it's a 10-game slate, so though this concept it doesn't apply as much as it would on a smaller slate. But we've actually talked about this before on 4, 5, 6, 7-game slates. We have a really popular stack, a line 1 like Colorado with a high team total. Easy leverage is dropping to their second line. And tonight, a lot of their second line guys rank favorably as well. Kadri, Burakovsky, Saad. But again, that's not something you need to do on a 10-game slate, right? It's not that much leverage dropping to the second line. When you get half the ownership on a 6-game slate, that's when you can consider it. And we'll still get some line 2 lineups here with Colorado. But again, that's something we have to force most.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have some questions here. Carl says, do you like Edmonton better or Montreal? And thanks for the stream.
According to, I'll just say the stack dashboard tonight likes Edmonton line 1 the most with McDavid. And they're going to be relatively unpopular. And they usually are as a stack overall. McDavid always gets his. And so we definitely like them better than Montreal for sure. But Jack, you and I were talking about this before streaming. It's a little deep in the weeds, but I think this is a natural transition. McDavid has been playing with various guys in each game. How does that affect your builds and your process when you have a stud who gets way more ownership than his line mates, but he's also moving around throughout the game and playing with different guys?
Yeah. And start off by shouting out to the hockey experts in the Discord who, explain this stuff. Like I can stare at a website that says this, but they're explaining why and how often and all the X's and O's or whatever the hockey analogy is. So, really appreciate all of you guys' expertise to help us through that. But, to handle that, I think if you're doing a single entry, you just kind of have to take a stand. You have to just decide which one you're going to play. And if you're going to play it, you're accepting the risk. Tiebreaker maybe goes to guys that play on the same power play unit. So even if they switch up the even strength lines, you're still getting some correlation. I think tonight is fine because it's, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, both of those guys play on him on the power play. But if you're building a lot of lineups in the multi-builder, you can actually just put them all on line 1 and you can use some custom rules to basically ensure that you're ending up with McDavid plus 2 offensive guys. Then you can let the builder just give you a spread, and you're throwing away some lineups, but you're also ensuring that you get some with whatever pair actually skates together, or trio skates together.
And that trio is going to be low owned, especially if it's one that's not really expected, right? If it's listed on, Daily Faceoff or RotoWire or the Occupy model, and that's what most people accept as what's going to happen, and then there's a less popular combination that they end up rolling out with, then it's going that type of stack is going to be extremely, extremely low owned.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that, Brian. And the other question here from Kyle. Jack or Brian, maybe you all know what he means by this, but he says, do you ever find a useful edge when a stack kills builds in any sport?
I think I have an idea what he's asking, but Kyle, if you can just clarify what you mean in the chat, we're happy to answer it, and definitely like those types of high-level questions. So if you can just clarify what you mean, we're happy to provide an answer.
Yeah, and then I'll pass this question over to Jack because it's something that always bugs me, and I always love to hear input on that. If we go back to the team setting here, and we look, I'm just sorting by team percent. We have Edmonton and Anaheim at 1%. It's, for example, Anaheim, it's literally just their line 3 as one stack. How do you kind of handle these literally one-offs? Do you rerun the builder again? Do you exclude them? How do you handle that, Jack?
When you say one-offs, you mean like you just got a sync, and I'm still looking at the screen here. A few seconds, I guess, what do you mean by that?
So, for example, like Anaheim is 1% owned. We only have,
I see.
Looks like one lineup with them. I finished like 5th with a lineup that had one lineup from that team, and I was pretty lucky there. But normally I try to avoid anything that's 1, 2, 3%. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So remember, we're running this on low randomizer, so we would not enter these lineups if we were 150 maxing, but we were doing this to kind of look at those optimal pairings. Mm-hmm. So I guess what that tells me is when you're trying to build an optimal lineup, they're not one of the strong candidates to do that. Clearly we can see that it's trying to use Colorado and then some other stack to fill the value. But I think if you're if you see a 1 or 2% and you're like wondering, like, is that just random? If I run it again, are they going to be out of there? You could go ahead and exclude the team, or you could say, you know what, I want to make sure I get 3 to 5% of them, and you can actually create a percent rule. I don't have a clear answer for that one. It's more just we give you the option to do both, and I think that's where some of our hockey experts in the Discord are like, hey, but this guy is a stud. You might look at the OF index and he's really high, and you're like, okay, it's passing over him, but I want to make sure I get a few lineups with that guy or something like that.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that just really quickly. Another thing we've discussed briefly in previous streams is not only eliminating the popular pairs, but eliminating the super unpopular pairs. So like, don't play Anaheim 3 and Vancouver 3 together. Like, the builder might do that. It probably won't, but like, just in case, that way, and to be honest, right, I'm okay with having a 1% Anaheim exposure or a 5% or whatever it is, just as long as it's paired with one of my most exposed teams, right? If I really like Colorado and I'm just running a ton of Colorado, let's just get every kind of combination with them, right? And if Anaheim's only used once with Colorado, if Anaheim goes off, that's good. And it's run with Colorado, and Colorado goes off, that could be the liner that wins it for me. And this is similar in other sports where it's like, you don't necessarily have to get 2 really unpopular stacks together. I'm thinking, stacking sports, MLB, League of Legends, things like that. But if I do use them and I use them with a popular stack, it's still going to be unique. And if it goes off, so be it. I don't need to run combinations. Just run it with the really popular combo and hope it goes off.
Yeah. And Brian, I forgot to mention, but that's the other new thing I did for Saturday night win was I took a handful of like 5% or less teams, and I even said their line ones. I said, don't use any of these teams together. And it did exactly what you were saying. It's okay. It's not using these teams much, but when it does, I want it to be paired with the teams the builder likes.
Excuse me. Absolutely, yeah. And so Kyle clarifies this, like, if you can't get to 150, if this builder, the thing that we had with the builder wasn't a timeout, like it legitimately can't get you to 150. Brian, do you want to take that?
Yeah, and I'll see this in other sports. What that really means is there's probably going to be some popular combos, right? I get this sometimes in MMA DFS where I set all my rules and I set my salary strict. I want these specific types of lineups, and it can't build it, which means that if I can't build it, that means there aren't as many combinations as I want, and the field is going to be pretty chalky in how they do things. So maybe I need to alter my approach a bit. And maybe this one, if like we legit can't get to 150, it's like, all right, maybe I need to really cut down my Colorado exposure and play some of the secondary tier ownership stacks. So for me, what that says most of the time, and again, it's definitely a case-by-case basis, but it means that the field's going to condense on a certain type of strategy or salary range or stack combinations, and I can pivot a little bit. But again, it is a slate-by-slate basis.
Yeah, because just looking here, I mean, Colorado's in the exposures tab so far 73%. Like that's a little high. So yeah, we probably have to cut down on that, and it would converge.
I thought about it more. I don't think it was a timeout. I think just even for low randomizer, Brian, this is like a ridiculous amount of Colorado 1. And it's all 4-man stacks. If you look at the prices of those guys, they're all extremely high. So I think this is just a case where on low randomizer, it literally just ran out of 4-4 combos that it possibly could use. I think if we ran on 4-3-1 or any other combo stack, or if we turn the randomizer to medium or high, it would have no problem. But it's just a case where it's a stack that's incredibly liked by the builder and just also incredibly expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
But it does go to show, like, it's tempting to put all your rules and settings in before you build, but this is the way you avoid stuff like this and scratching your head and getting mad is like put a few settings in, build, put a few settings in, build. And that way, if you don't get to 150, you can figure out, why pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Yep. So that'll pretty much do it. I'm going to go ahead and transition back to all of our faces, and I'll bring back up the stack dashboard. So I'm pulling up the stack dashboard, and I'm going to go ahead and transition back to us. So hello again, everyone. Last question. Black says, which power play is the best? I'll ask each of you all this.
Surprisingly, if you've been following along this show, our model really likes Colorado's top power play unit because all their line 1 guys play on the top power play unit. But Jack, as always, San Jose creeping into the mix in the model.
I'm going to say Carolina because their power play, they score on the power play every night. I mean, they're not, what I mean is they're probably not the number 1 ranked team on the site, but like, I think we see their power play score more goals than it seems like a higher percentage of their goals are power play than any of their team. They're like the one team in the team statistics. If I get a bunch of power play stacks from them, I'm not worried about it. All the other teams, if I see like all power play stacks, I'm like, maybe I want to scale that back. But Carolina, I'm like, whatever, that's their thing.
Yeah. Cool. So that'll pretty much do it. Jack, Brian, I appreciate you all coming on tonight to chop up NHL DFS. Always love to do that. Again, if you like what you see here, definitely go ahead and hit that like button. That really helps us out. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already, and the bell notifications to be notified of any new videos that we upload or go live. If you really like us, hit the join button to join our Discord and a couple other perks. But with that being said, Moose, Brian, and Jack from Occupy Fantasy and DFS Magic. Until next time, have a good night.